In this next section, we're going to look at 4 different solar models that can be installed on an apartment building. First, we look at the most common type of solar setup, which is a solar system which only connects to the common area load. That is the house lights or common area meter. Now, when you have a solar system connected to a meter, if there's not enough demand on that meter at a particular time of day where more solar is generated than can be consumed inside the building, then the extra solar will feed into the grid. So that is actually a bidirectional smart meter that allows electricity to flow in from the grid when there's not enough sunlight or at nighttime, and when there's too much generation, it allows electricity to flow back into the grid, for which the energy retailer will pay some compensation back to the owner's corporation or body corporate, typically 6-10 cents per kilowatt hour, maybe as high as 19 or 20 cents per kilowatt hour. The second type of solar setup for an apartment building is individual solar systems for each individual unit in the building. Now, this setup is typically best for a townhouse complex that might have a sprawling estate of townhouses with ample roof space. It could also be done on a low-rise building, maybe a 2 or 3 level apartment block. The challenge with this model is that you need a separate inverter for each solar system, and an inverter that converts the DC to AC is an expensive piece of equipment. So you're not really getting economies of scale when you are replicating this technology for each individual apartment in the complex. However, this model, you can pass a special use bylaw just in favour of the owners that do want to put a solar system in at their own cost. And you can download these special use bylaws relatively cheaply off the internet, maybe for $299. And that individual can then go about putting their own solar system in. Keep in mind, in a strata complex, all the roof space is common property. So the first person in might actually choose the best solar access part of the roof, which is not shaded by any other buildings or trees, which might not be directly above where their apartment or townhouse is. So keep in mind, the roof space in the strata is all common property, and first in best dressed under this model in terms of the location for solar access of the first systems in. The other thing to keep in mind, the special use bylaws for individual apartment solar systems have to cater for the scenario where the building might have to do roofing repairs, and then it's the individual apartment owner's responsibility to pay for removal of their solar system while the roofing repair can be done, and then reinstallation of their solar system after the roofing repair is done. We'll move on to solar sharing gateway, or another name for this is a power division management system. This is a system which is developed by the company in Melbourne called Allume Energy, which I referred to earlier. So if we look at this picture, we can see a single solar system on the roof of the apartment building. That's connecting through to a solar sharing gateway. But before the power goes into the solar sharing gateway, it goes through an inverter, gets converted to AC, and then the solar sharing gateway is actually measuring the demand in real time of each of the units that it's connected to. And what it's doing is during the solar generation period, it's actually squirting the solar that's generated to the units that need it the most. And it's got an accounting system that's operating in the cloud that's measuring how much solar from the shared solar system in the roof is going into each of the individual apartments over the course of a month. If, for example, one of the unit dwellers goes on a road trip into New South Wales for 2 weeks, then the demand from their unit will go down in that period, and the solar sharing gateway will be intelligently allocating solar that's generated to the other units during that 2-week period. When that resident comes back from their New South Wales road trip, then the solar sharing gateway will detect that they're back in their apartment and will actually be sending more solar to them in the last 2 weeks of the month, such that by the end of the month, all the units that are connected to the solar sharing gateway get the equivalent amount of solar power fed to them. And the important thing about this is that it takes away the effort of having a separate billing system, a user pays billing system that measures people on the solar that they consume in their apartment. And it takes away the need to have 2 bills, an energy retailer bill for your electricity that comes from the grid, and a separate solar bill that you have to pay each month or each quarter. So by intelligently allocating exactly the same amount of solar to each unit that's connected to the system, the entire system can be fair and equitable. Now, the other benefit of the solar sharing gateway is that not every apartment in the building has to participate. So if you've got an apartment complex with 10 units, 5 are owned by owner investors and 5 are owned by owner occupiers, perhaps only the 5 owner occupiers and maybe one of the owner investors want to join together, pitch in their share of a shared solar system, and those people will get the benefit. The people that didn't want to participate in this model don't have to pay $2,000 to $3,000 for their share of the joint solar system, and can just let the other people that are interested in solar go about their business. So this has been a great innovation that's been brought into the market in Sydney, approved in the Ausgrid area in 2020, and we're going to jump back to 13 to 19 Warren Street in Ryde. And on the right, you can see the solar system on the roof of this multi-tenant apartment complex. And on the left, you can see 2 Fronius inverters and 2 solar sharing gateways. So just to give you an idea, each solar sharing gateway can connect up to a maximum of 15 individual apartments. At 13 to 19 Warren Street, there are 17 apartments, and all apartments are connected to the solar sharing system, so they needed a second solar sharing gateway. But obviously, if you've got an apartment building where the number of people interested in solar sharing is a multiple of 15, you're going to get the best economics in terms of the cheapest price for each individual apartment owner to pay for their share of the solar sharing system. So if you've got 15, 30, 45 or 60 apartments that are interested, you'll get the lowest per unit cost per apartment for joining in a solar sharing gateway arrangement. And this is, here in Ryde, is only the second of this type of system to be installed in the Greater Sydney area. It was installed in the last couple of years in a number of locations in Melbourne, but is now approved for installation in Ausgrid network, which is the key network, or the grid network under all of the Ryde City Council area. And then finally, we'll look at one other type of solar arrangement on an apartment building. And this is where you have an embedded electrical network or smart meter network. This is a network where you have a gate meter or parent meter sitting in front of the common area meter and all the unit meters, enabling bulk buying of electricity from the electricity grid or the national electricity market. And if you have a solar system on a building that has an embedded electrical network, you can connect that solar system through an inverter to the gate meter. And then from the gate meter, the solar power will flow through common areas and each of the individual units. So the benefit is if you've got a fridge running in your apartment, it can be benefiting from solar power. And this is measured on a user pays basis on how much solar you actually consume, but it's integrated into the billing that you get from that third-party embedded electrical network operator that's managing the embedded electrical network for your apartment building. So if we jump over here to the Genesis building at 133 Bowden Street in Meadowbank, here we have an example of a 30 kilowatt solar system connected to an embedded electrical network. And this system is sharing the solar into the individual apartments as well as the common areas of this building.